2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing.
Post?
Testing, 1, 2 and a half. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Rolling?
That's right.
All right.
Yep.
The most important thing, though, is to understand that the sum of all of these reasons, the system of measurement that we learn, the comparatives, the positives, the negatives, as we've just said, these various types of patterns are all tremendously important, just as the fact that we use these things elsewhere that we pick up here. And that key thing of intellect is so vital, because that is the one that makes it run. Put another way, we came here and here in a certain form, in a certain way, and we came with what we call a right brain, which is another part of a symbol, of course, but it's a way of being. But we did not have this intellect when we came, and we began to learn and acquire this intellect for the very purpose that that was that wonderful balance. And the important thing is to understand that that is the difference between learning and non-learning, and that is to acquire and use that intellect. And I can say without any equivocation, no reservation, no conditioning, that everything, what little, and is not much, I assure you, that I might have achieved so far is totally due to the imposition of my intellect upon what was taking place. Instead of just flying around in the out-of-body state, after I knew it wouldn't kill me, I got curious. And the intellect got curious. What's going on here? What is this that's taking place? That was the difference. That brought the whole thing into focus, into patterns, getting my analytical ability at work in it. And what little growth is due to that. Now, the funny thing is, so now we gather all these things. We've got our intellect, our measurement knowledge, our application of energy, and we're all, as I like to put it, going home with all this bag full of goodies, as it were, to take home and show the local boys how much you've learned and what you can do. The only problem is that when we do this, we forget something that happens, as again on the way to the store, that we don't expect. What's that? Well, if you know about it, then you can have fun. It's where you don't know about it is where it gets dangerous. And that is that we become addicted to being human. And so after we exit this particular life sojourn, we're saying instead of going home and what I call having escape velocity to go home, something's happened in living that life. We've picked up a load factor. There was friction along the way, and that represents it. So instead of moving out and having escape velocity, we start turning along that, and it's our decision, no one else's. That's the important thing. Our decision. We say, well, I think I'll go back just once more, and this next time I think I'll be a male instead of a female. That ought to be more fun. Just once more, and then I'll go home. So what happens is, instead of moving this way, we loop around and go back being a human again, and go back and have another human experience, another lifetime, and we come out again, and we're already this time. But this time we've had even a greater load factor, don't you see? We've slowed up a little more. We haven't got the speed that we did. We have a greater load, and so we're now in orbit, and we have a decaying orbit, because when we come up around the orbit like this, instead of going on, we say, oh, I got to go back because I've never seen Paris, and I'd like to go to Paris for once in my life, and I'd like to just go there. So whole purpose to go back and live again so that I can go to Paris. And I've heard so much about Paris, I want to go to Paris. So I'll go and live again so I can go to Paris. And as you can see, each time you pick up in each succeeding lifetime a greater load factor, so that as you go through this, your orbit decays more and more as you go through this, living these successive lives until you get locked in tighter and tighter and tighter till you are locked in being human so tight that you forget where you came from. You've lost all of the desire to even depart and go home. You've lost it all. Because this is so overwhelmingly addictive that you can't think of anything else but this time, space, physical matter, all the things that take place in there. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get away from it. The reason being, there's no law. But when you, quote, die, and instead of going home, you make the decision. There's no law that says you have to stay here. You are the one who says, I gotta go back. I didn't eat enough steaks. I didn't have enough strawberries. I didn't have enough children. All these kinds of things. Or I didn't have enough sex. Which is anyway, that's how we lock in as being human. In so doing this, now the next trick is, well, what happens? Well, why don't we recognize this more and more? Because we are so deeply addicted. So we develop an excuse, which you call belief systems, to rationalize this process. But it's all done in this local traffic human terms. This is the difference. As a result, somewhere along the way, you begin to find cracks in the belief system. You begin to find reasons that don't work quite well. That's the analytical thing coming into it. It says, hey, wait a minute, something wrong here. This doesn't work out. 2 and 2 makes 6. No, wrong. Try again. You begin to find out that there are some holes in the cracks, and that's when you begin to regrow and begin to, so that successively you begin to start on your way out again, and you begin to have a higher and higher orbit as you learn more, and in these successive lives, till finally you got escape velocity, and then you do go home. And that's what it's all about.